First question is going to be, I'll ask you, Aaron, like how did you decide that underwear was going to be the market that you were going to hit for as far as sportswear?
Yeah, for me, it was personal experience. Like college lacrosse, Pat and I both played. So it was just a lot of, 6 hours a day you're playing, whether you're waking up before, putting in the work before, or a lift. Then you have practice for 3 to 4 hours. And then if you want to get that extra time in afterwards, it's another 2 hours. And then there's game day. So like 6 days a week for 3 to 4 months, you're on every day, doing that. And at the time, there weren't that many compressions out there. And I had super bad chafing, super sensitive skin. So I was trying everything. And then after college, I was like, I feel like this is a need. And at the time, there weren't that many. There wasn't really a focal point. And so I wanted to get into the industry. No one would hire me. So I used this as a leverage point, like fix the problem with compression shorts and then, try and get into the industry. And both ended up, happening that way. Men's underwear, who knew,
What was wrong? What was wrong with our compression shorts in the old days?
For sure. Yeah, no, so a lot of it was the Nike dry fit stuff. And there's no knock on it. It's super lightweight, but it was kind of a rougher polyester, really lightweight. So it was like kind of lacking in support. Also the seams, they just placed the seams so close to the groin. So it was like, those were the seams that were chafing for me at least. And I noticed there was no relief anywhere. So it was a mix of support and just honestly hand feel, just how it felt against your skin. It's the first thing you put on and you wear it for 6 hours a day. It's the thing that causes the most distractions if it's not, good. So that was the main thing we fixed, was going for chafing, starting with skin feel, and then also separating the seams from the friction zones were the two core components. And then after working in the industry for a while too, I noticed that males who have more muscular butts, generally speaking, you don't want that to come down. And so fixing like a back rise, which is what it's called, to like compensate for more muscular glutes. So those were like the three design elements that like really I thought needed fixing, because a lot of them had certain components, but not all in one. And so that's really what gave proof to it. And at the time, the pocket was like super innovative. And now I think everyone has a pocket. But at the time that we launched, there were very few pockets, which is another feature that, is really important to us.
Like, what is the first step in creating your own business, going from knowing there's a need for compression shorts to actually laying the blueprints to getting it done?
For sure. Yeah, it was for me, we were the target consumer, both Pat and I getting out of college. It was kind of like that work hard, play hard mentality, in terms of like, we still released during workout, but like wanted to, we were trying to start careers. So that was the balance. And then we knew we were the target consumer. So it was kind of like using us as test subjects. So the first step was just like, can I make something that's actually good, that I would want to wear, that's not already in the market? And so that was like a year and a half long process. I learned, sewing and how to put things together. So like when there was something wrong, I learned why and then how to fix that. I can't even tell you how many prototypes there were. And I was fortunate enough to be in a space, in an apparel space, where we could select fabrics. So it was kind of like a mixture of just like finding the thing that felt the best and then putting it together the right way. That was step one, was just, can we even make something? Can this even happen? And once we found it, we're like, oh man, this is good. Like, I like it a lot, but like, will it actually work? And decided to take a gamble on that. Just kind of taking any money that I had saved up from, coaching and side jobs, and laid it down for an initial production run. Definitely a lot of friends and family in the initial round, but we had some few new people, enough positive feedback that it made me feel like there was another chance, a chance to take this further. And that's kind of how we've been operating ever since, was just the belief that more people try it, the more it keeps going. And then we believe in bootstrapping. So it's kind of like we do all the work until we can't anymore. So that's like the final step that we're still working on, is scaling. But those were our steps.
But how many prototypes does it take to finally say, we got it?
Everyone's different. And believe me, I listen to all the entrepreneurship podcasts. Bombas was most relevant in my mind, in terms of like the iterations, making it perfect. I don't even know. It all got stolen out of my car one time in Portland, but it was north of like 150 to 170 pairs total for like over a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah.
You mean 175 different
iterations? Yeah. Different fabrics, different seams. There's different threads, different waistbands, and then different patterns. So putting together differently, how does it fit? Different gussets, how you support the boys, the back rise, there's so many different elements, and then putting them all together into one was the most, you look at underwear and you're like, this can't be that complicated. But then like, once you just think about it and dive into it, there's so many levers to play with.
That seems like a lot. Like at what iteration did you say, or did you start saying, you know what, this isn't worth it? Like 150 seems like an eternity worth of getting it right.
Once we had I think it was the pattern. Once we started getting the pattern, like that was midway through. So I started seeing like mainly having the pocket available. Like I was already at the time being like, there's a need for this. But then, no one really like loved it. Like the fabric didn't feel right. It didn't like fit fully. So like I knew it was going to be good. I was just waiting for the time that I felt it was ready. Like I wanted to use it every day. And that came with the fabric. So a lot of that was just fabric iterations mainly at the end, was just trying to like, what feels the best. And I also worked in an apparel studio. So like it was really easy for me to make prototypes. I could crank out, 1 or 2 a day if I felt like there was a need. So I was in a position that helped me.
Is that fun, or is it very time consuming and very frustrating?
Well, what do they say when you're young? You have, no money, but all the time in the world, like the most energy. So I was just young, and I love working out, and I wanted to be in apparel. So it was like the most awesome thing in the world to me at the time. Now I don't know if I'd spend that much time. I don't have that much time. But then it was everything.
Well, question for both of you guys. I mean, lifelong friends, both have an interest in, I think it's lacrosse, right? Both of you guys?
Mm-hmm.
What's the pros and cons of being a two-person team, knowing each other from day one and just seeing your way to, I guess, to fruition, to production here?
Yeah, I mean, I can start with it. I think the positives is we've been working as a team for a long time. We know each other in team dynamics. I know Pat, we know each other very well, strengths and weaknesses, for better or worse, we know each other. It's more like almost a marriage at this point. So I think that's the strongest aspect of it from my point of view, just knowing him, knowing his strengths, trusting him completely with certain parts, because we both have definitely different sides of the business that we function with. So for me, that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, I think trust is a big thing. I trust Aaron with product. We don't always agree, but we know each other well enough to, I guess, approach it the right way. It definitely feels like the married couple sometimes. It's weird if I don't hear from Aaron every day type of thing, because that's how much we're communicating being in different states now. I'd say one of the negatives is, when things don't go well, or you're not selling as much as you want to, there's no one to blame except for yourselves. So there's always that feeling of, could we be doing more? Could we be introducing new products quicker? How can we grow faster? And that's kind of the downside of it, and the positive, like it's all on us.
So what are some of the problems that you guys did go through, and how, as friends and colleagues, how did you resolve it? How did you move on to the next stage?
Yeah, I mean, we've had lots of problems. Big one that stands out is COVID hit. We had shifted to a third-party distributor. They went bankrupt. They had all of our product, so we were out of stock for, we were fighting for like 2 months to get the product back. Eventually got it back, but every year we're kind of saying, okay, this is our year. And then that happened, and we really didn't have any control or know what was going to happen with the business. I'd say other pieces are just around production runs, right, Aaron? That's where we've had the most issues of, I'm thinking of, was it Chinese New Year?
Yeah. A lot of those are forecasting, and as a small business, bootstrapping. So it's like a cash flow thing, timing, not planning, and then also things out of your control. So it's like poor planning in that, but resolving it just comes down to, again, there's always a bright spot. For whatever reason, those things come around that you're like, there's still an opportunity that comes up. Pat, whether it's, getting some good press, or this athlete tried it and loved it, or the consumers come back and write a raving review. So like in those times where we don't have a product to sell, it's not coming in, or we have to pay too much to get it through customs, there's always that bright spot that somehow sparks us to keep going.
How do you guys compete, or with the heavy hitter, with the more established brands? How do you guys get your name out there alongside them?
Yeah, I mean, from a product standpoint, I'll speak to that. Pat has definitely done the most to get outreach, but from a product standpoint, I believe, at least in the market, it's an oversought, it's an overlooked part of the industry. And so by specializing in that, I think that value, as long as we keep, focusing on our customers and the value that we bring with our short, it's going to be a notable change when you go to a larger brand. It's an afterthought. They're not spending as much time or as much money on this product as we are, and it shows once you put it on. So from a product standpoint, that's, I believe, our differentiator. Just the scaling and then getting more people to notice is the hard part. But
Yeah, and I think it helps that this is what we do, right? We deal primarily in the compression space, and I honestly feel like we make the best product in the world, just in the sense of whenever we're seeding to anyone or to you, Jeff, there's never any worries of they're not going to like this. It's more of I'm excited to hear what they think. From a getting our name out there and growing the business, it's definitely a grind in the sense of a lot of DMs, a lot of emails, a lot of typing in, best compression shorts into Google and then going through all the articles, finding who wrote it, getting their email or Instagram, sending them a note. So it's definitely, like, I'd say my biggest strength is just being a pest, and Aaron can attest to this, but I have no shame when it comes to messaging people or remessaging and really wanting them to try it out, because I know once they do, they're going to feel that difference and know that it's not just a gimmick product.
So being a stalker technically is kind of like part of the job.
Yeah, a little bit.
So when it comes to like buying stuff online, being an online compression, so you really can't try them on, or it could be a struggle. But if for consumers, like what would you advise someone who's going out comparing brands, like what to look out for? Like just
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'd look out for, and we talked about this a little, Jeff, but just the Amazon $20 pair type things where you really get what you pay for. We're a little pricier than some options. I think still affordable, but they're made to last. I have pairs that are 6 years old that I still wear. We're not making these to have them break down, 2 months in and have you buy a new pair. Aaron, you can add on that too.
yeah, 100%. I agree. And that's our sustainability front. And in terms of like looking at other brands, it's definitely, it's always outward looking in. It's weird once you get behind the doors of a business and see how, like, we at least operate ours and wondering how they operate theirs. But it's really hard to, unless you try out the fabric, I think, like in terms of other brands. But I can speak to ours. Just that is our goal, is to make less last longer, even if it means less returning customers over time, just because our product lasts so long.
And we try to do, so we have a guarantee where if you're not happy with the product, we refund you. You don't have to send it back. If you do send it back and return it, we give that to a men's shelter in Portland, so helping to close the loop. That's called Do Good. It works with homeless veterans. So I think one of our things coming into this and what keeps us going is, can we give back even a little bit? And I think that's helped keep us motivated as well.
Okay, that was a perfect transition, because I was just going to ask that next. What is the importance of giving back, like to the local community, to those in need? How does that help? How does it make you guys feel? How is that part of the business, part of the mission?
Yeah, and I want to start it off, at least, like, one of our missions and what fitness has done for us in general has been an outlet, mainly mentally, like psychological health, especially during COVID. So we believe that, like, getting fit, a lot of other companies too, but believe, like, getting fit, it's a passageway to, like, gaining health, whether that's physical or mental. And so enabling that for anyone is kind of our core mission. So enabling progress through comfort and function. And then it's always been hard being a small business and actually figuring out where we could potentially give back and make a difference. And we've been lucky to have been involved with some organizations, whether that's youth, learning. There's one, Mind Leaps, where we just donated a whole bunch of tights. They use arts as a tool for learning. And so we donated some Strider tights for them so they could have these, I think it was just dance classes.
Dance classes in Africa.
Yeah. They were epic pictures and really good. It was really cool to see that. And, like, that was their form of movement and expression and getting together in community. And then with Houseless Veterans for Do Good, it's nice because our products, we don't give anything back that's, like, been thoroughly used. These are one-time try-ons, thoroughly inspected and then thoroughly washed. And so we talk about dignity. It's not like pulling out a pair that's like got a whole bunch of holes in it. It's essentially fresh. And so giving someone that access to underwear, which is actually the most needed thing. Now socks are pretty high because everyone's kind of donating pairs. Underwear is still one of the number one most needed items for a houseless. So that's work in progress, but that's something that we strive to do at least.
Is that on the local level or is that more on the national level now?
It's local level right now for us because we are. I'm in Seattle now, but we'll be back in Portland, and that's where we both grew up. So it means a lot to us to be able to be in that community and bring it together and give back where we can, especially since that's a really key issue in Portland right now.
Now, were you guys teammates in high school or?
Yep.
How did you guys get along as far as teammates?
Well, just competitive, it was the same. It was like good cop, bad cop kind of thing. I was more reserved and Pat was more out front and competitive, but we both competed pretty hard against each other.
Yeah. We always feel like competed in whatever we're doing, whether it's ping pong or I remember running sprints and needing, we're both two very competitive people.
Well, did you guys know back then that you guys are going to be partners in a fitness apparel industry or?
No, I don't even think we're thinking about it. I was at Nike. Aaron was doing this on the side and he came to me for questions about restarting the business. I tried a pair and I wanted in. I feel like it was, watching a lot of Shark Tank. You see these big kind of small companies get big and you kind of want to chase that dream. And that's what I think. I still get a lot of questions of, it's 8 years later. Why are you still doing this? You haven't been bought by a company. And it's just that, I guess, a lot of love for owning our own business, having the freedom to do what we want to do, and get some pride in what we've accomplished. There's definitely months where, sales aren't great, but then we have to step back and compare it to where we started at and be like, this is pretty impressive that we've grown this with 2 people to this point. So
yeah, and stayed in business and been able to stay profitable and in business for almost 8 or 9 years now.
Do you have like a plan already for expansion? Like when this does take off, what's next? What is next for Pacterra?
Yeah, from a product standpoint, at least, we definitely have a plan to expand in terms of doubling down on compression and really filling out that space how we believe it can be filled out. Just looking at the different types of compression and athletes that are out there, how hyper niche they are in terms of like triathletes, whether that's CrossFit, weightlifting specific, endurance runners, ultra marathon runners, trail runners. So there's a chance to do that in terms of making it, more elevated product and then more like lightweight product in terms of changing up the fabric. So that's like one thing. And then also women's is on the horizon. We want to make it not only the best compression for men, but also for women. So that's kind of our goal, is to stick in our lane and be the best at it and then grow where we can, adding on benefits to different athletes and, hopefully collectively all athletes, any gender.
And then from a business standpoint, I think it's really optimizing, looking at our sourcing. Can we get the product made less expensive if we scale up? How do we get our community more involved? Because it's something where, how do we get people to talk about their underwear? That's been a difficult thing of, are you going to tell your best friend, I tried these out? Are you going to post a picture in your underwear? Probably not all the time, but trying to get people talking and spreading the word as much as they can.
1 or 2 more questions. One question was, how do you come up with the designs?
Yeah, the designs, like the colors, you mean, or like the actual?
Oh yeah, the colors and the I guess what was the one? I can't remember the exact brand name or the black color of it. The spotted one.
Oh yeah, the speckle. There's some speckle in the 90s. To be honest, it's always been my dream kind of I love Illustrator AI. So I have some friends who are graphic designers, and so they would help us out initially. But that's kind of what we do, is stick with 90 color palette. It's my favorite. It's kind of coming back right now, so it's perfect timing for it all to land. But that's kind of been the theme of the prints so far and where we stick with it. And we believe it's consumer and market relevant. But it's always an evolution. That's why we love it. Some work, some don't, some hit. And so we keep iterating on that.
And it's a good way to spread the word. If you're wearing black compression shorts and they're peeking out of your shorts, no one's going to question it. But if it's a pink or a print, maybe you get that, hey, what are those? And then you can talk about the actual features. I will say on the prints, that's probably where Aaron and I butt heads the most. Him wanting to be overly creative and me wanting just known sellers. But I know he still needs that creativity to find joy in Pacterra, so I let it slide.
All very accurate.
Last question is, how did you come up with the name of Pacterra? I think we've talked about it before, but how did you come up with the name Pacterra?
That was a hard one. Branding exercise for sure. It was, so for me, being in Portland, the inspiration for the brand is about the versatility of the state of Oregon in general. So being in Portland, you have, the access to the ocean an hour away. There's the gorge with the rivers, the desert in Central Bend, and then Mount Hood being the mountains. So you can have access to different geos, which has inspired me to, being active, you need to be active in all realms. And I thought the Pacific Northwest was a really special place. Also bring in the rain. So when you wake up for a workout every morning and it's pouring rain, 5 a.m. and it's cold, it's not fun, but you have to put on your shorts and get out there. So I wanted to be Pacific Northwest. And so that's what it came down to, was trying to incorporate Pacific and then Beast. Terra was like, I think it's Pantera. That's a band, but it meant to be Pacific Beast, the core of it. I don't remember how it started, but that was our inspiration.
Ooh, Rain and Blood sounds like a great name.
Yeah.
Other style. That would be great. What were some of the names that didn't make it?
Oh man. There was a list a long time ago, and I'm glad I deleted it because it was bad. And it's still, it wasn't great. But I can't even remember what we were trying to go with.